All right, Stochastic, here we go. It's your old pal EMac coming to you on a Saturday morning. We have a big day of sports ahead. We have a nice holiday weekend. Hopefully everybody got to kick back and relax. We still have Saturday and Sunday before that troublesome work week jumps up again on Monday. Adam, how was your holiday?
It was good. Nothing big, just immediate family over at my sister's. I was telling Josh I wasn't even like there long because we were doing dinner at 3. My sister said we're doing dinner at 3, so I get there at like 3:15. But my parents had been there since like 1:30, and my mom, they needed to go back home to like feed the dogs around like 6. So in my head, I'm like, okay, we're gonna eat. We're gonna watch. The Washington game starts at 4:30. I'll be here till like 8. And coming up on halftime of the game, my mom's like, all right, like we gotta head out. And I was like, okay. And so at that point, like once they leave, it's just me, my brother-in-law, and my sister. And I was like, they probably don't want me here. So I just left too. And my sister later was like, yeah, I was really confused, why you left. But yeah, so I spent an hour driving there, was there for like 3 hours, and then drove an hour home.
There we go. Hey, but family time, on manufactured holidays. We gotta love it. We gotta love it. Now you do see your mom and I know occasionally your sister just in the regular course of life. So it's not like you guys that don't see each other. But yeah,
no, they live an hour away from me. Like I had said to them before, I probably offended them a bit beforehand, but like I've mostly cut out drinking. I've been eating really well for the last like 3 weeks to a month. And so I had just said to them, I was like, I'm not even looking forward to Thanksgiving. Like it's just us. I see you guys anyway. And all it's doing is making me want to wreck like everything I've been working on.
Such is life. Such is a life. Nathan Joyce in the chat. What's going on, Nate? We've got some good stuff here. EMac's volume is out of control. All right, well, let's fix this. Is it too high or too low? I'm producing the show, so I can't, in turn, go onto the YouTube channel. But if you guys want to tell me to raise it or lower it.
Quiet and that you're loud, so I don't know which one.
Okay, let me see if I can tweak that. There's not that many settings here in.
Yeah, I couldn't even figure out how to adjust mine.
So I guess I can turn that down a little. We'll see if that works. And then I just won't, I won't yell. Oh, look. Oh, so we have see, now I'm getting excited and talking loud again. We have the, you sound great to, you blew out my earbud, back-to-back comments. I can only do so much here. I can only do so much. So I will try not to get overly excited. But we've got 4 games today. I was hoping they would reach forward and get that 6 o'clock game to give us a little bit of differentiation, because not to spoil the plot, but it's going to be all things Atlanta Hawks and Washington Wizards. Adam, it's going to start feeling disappointing when we have days that there are not games with the 240-point total. This has just become ridiculous. What are your thoughts on that, since we have a couple minutes here?
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. It's fun, but it's wild. It's just that you have a handful of teams this year that they don't play defense and they play at the fastest pace. Like, so you get, whenever Washington's playing, Indiana going into yesterday was first in pace and last in defensive rating. Charlotte is on that list. Dallas is low-key on that list. That's one of those teams that, like, I think there's a tendency to think of them as being more like being slower because they are historically, like over the last few years, but they're one of the faster teams this year. They don't play defense. And so when you get these teams playing against each other, it just really drives up the total, which, again, it's fun. It's different though.
It absolutely is. All right. So I've moved the mic across my desk as far as it can go. I've tried to adjust the settings. There are no settings in StreamYard to tweak this. So hopefully that works out for everybody. Again, apologies here. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But let's dive on in here into the fun. We, of course, are brought to you by Vivid Picks today. The cool things that they have, and I'm going to drop this splash page into the chat for you guys, but the cool thing that they have is a $300 deposit match. If you go in regularly, they only give you a $100 deposit match. So come in on this page, and we'll go from there. But $300 deposit match on your first deposit. And then the other cool thing is your very first Pick'em card is a $25 risk-free, meaning if you lose, they will give you $25 in site credit. So the key for that is to play $25. So if you're making your first deposit, put in $25, they're going to give you $25, and you get a risk-free first card. Alrighty, Adam, we have the What's our first one here? It is, of course, the Atlanta Hawks at the Washington Wizards. 248.5 implied point total here. Atlanta last played on Wednesday. That was when they beat Brooklyn in overtime, a 147, a 145. Atlanta plays again tomorrow. The Wizards played last night. They lost to Milwaukee in Milwaukee, 131-128. That was today will be their third game in 3 days. Last night, Jordan Poole played 34 minutes. Kuzma had 31. Jones had 31 and Kispert had 33 off the bench. They're without DeLon Wright. He's missed the last 7 games with the knee injury. He is not expected back for another 3 weeks. And then Koulibaly, their rookie, is dealing with a sore knee. How would you like to approach this game other than get a waiver to play all of the positions from this game? All of your
I mean, that's pretty much it. There are 8 guys on Atlanta right now on DraftKings projected for at least 10% ownership, rounding up for DeJounte Murray at 9.7%. But it's pretty much the whole rotation. Atlanta's playing a tight rotation, so that's something else that has made them very, very favorable for DFS. It's not just that we've had them in some high-scoring games lately, and we have them in another one tonight, but they're just playing a tight rotation where you can really trust the playing time that you're getting, knock on wood. Yesterday, I can't get the game to load. It's because it wasn't yesterday. The 22nd, so Wednesday, AJ Griffin played 3 minutes. Other than that, it was an 8-man rotation. I mean, most NBA teams in the regular season are running 9. Some are running 10. The Hawks are essentially running 8, and it just makes them look very, very good. 9,500 for Trae Young, getting 25% ownership with a 23% chance of being optimal. Looks fantastic. Okongwu is still 4,800. He's 41% owned, 21% chance of being optimal. So that's a spot where, he is projected to go over-owned, but he's still a good value. He's still going to be in the optimal lineup the second most frequently on this team. So it really, for him, comes down to, are you able to find contrarian pieces around him? But, individually, still a very good value there. Capella is still only 6K. You're getting a 48-minute split, essentially, from those guys. Last game, it happened to be 25.5 for Okongwu, which means, they played.
It was overtime.
Oh, okay. I was saying, did they play alongside each other? So 25.5 in regulation for Okongwu, and then it was 22.5 in regulation for Capella. But, on average, it's probably going to be like 25.5 Capella, 22.5 Okongwu. Either way, they're cheap enough where if you get the game where Capella plays 28-29 or Okongwu plays 25-26, they look fantastic. It's also just a really good spot. Jalen Johnson's been very productive this year. He's 6,700, getting 20%. Bogdanovich and Bey. Bogdanovich 21% at 5,700. Bey 27% at 4,700. Hunter is getting 11% at 5,200. Like, this whole team just looks good. Obviously, Young, Murray, Capella, Johnson are the guys that are producing at the highest rates, but then you just have cheap prices on the other guys, and it just makes the whole team look appealing. The only guy projected right now to really be going over-owned, Okongwu is getting basically twice the ownership as his optimal percentage. Bey also getting about double the ownership, but for the most part, these guys are more or less correctly owned, even at high ownership.
So the age-old question, are you going to just play one of the Atlanta centers?
I assume most. Do you mean, will I play
Okongwu and Capella? Yeah, will you play them together?
I don't mind it just because of the pricing and it being a 4-game slate still. Like, it's not my preferred option. If I'm playing one lineup, I probably wouldn't do it. But I think that, if you're playing multiple lineups, especially on a 4-game slate, I don't want to just kick out every Capella Okongwu lineup, because if you get like a 26-minute Capella game, 22-minute Okongwu game, or even 27-21 in favor of Capella, they can both pay off those salaries. If you play them together, you're pretty much rooting for Capella to play more minutes than Okongwu, because obviously it's going to be difficult for Capella to pay off 6K if he's on the 21-minute end. But if you get that like 27-21 or 26-22, they both can get it done.
Yeah, it's obviously we can't play them together on FanDuel. They're both center only, but you are getting 6,300 for Capella, 5,400 for Okongwu. They are essentially coming in around low teens for their popularity in this one. How are you feeling about Sadiq Bey, who has become potentially stepping in, getting that third scorer role, obviously vacated by John Collins? It seems to be a mix of Bogdanovich, now Bey, Hunter. It seems like every game they're just kind of searching for someone other than Murray and Young. How are you
I think
feeling
the
about
appealing
Bay
thing about
stepping in?
Bay is just that the price tag still hasn't moved too much. 4,700, played 24 minutes last game, but you get some games where he plays 26, 28. He's been a 0.85 DraftKings point per minute guy this year, which is perfectly fine. Jalen Johnson's been the one that's really stepped up. 1.01 DraftKings points per minute. Still only a 17.5% usage rate for him, though, 17% for Bay. Bogdanovich has the third highest usage rate at 22.7%, which kind of just speaks to how much of the offense is going through Trae Young and DeJounte Murray when you have one other guy above 20% in usage. But on a game-to-game basis, who that guy ends up being does vary. But the pricing is just still very, very affordable, which makes it worth it, taking a risk on these guys.
Alrighty, let's Steven, I don't know. We're StreamYard is maybe working on Adam's volume in the background. No luck for me on however this works, but there we go. Let's talk the Wizards here. What are your thoughts as a lifelong actually Washington Wizards fan? How are you feeling about the Jordan Poole experience? Does it seem like he has worn out his welcome already with his immaturity, lack of effort? I thought this would be the perfect situation for him, jacking up 20 plus shots a game with the whole team in DGAF mode, but he's taken it to a new level, just blowing obvious defensive assignments. It seems like he's chatting up the ladies on the sidelines. It's
letting the clock run on
steroids, I guess.
Go while down by 10. I'm not sure if you saw that highlight, but
I did not. But
against Milwaukee, they were down by 10 with like 4 minutes to go, and Jordan Poole just lets the inbound roll to like half court, thinking the clock like wasn't going to start until he touched it. Like it doesn't after like the 2 minute mark or whatever. And I think it was Beasley when like the ball's rolling up the floor, and Beasley starts to like go pick him up, and then Beasley kind of like looks at the clock and it's just like, okay, and just like backs off and lets Poole just stand there and look at the ball. But no, it's been impressive to me, like how quickly he kind of has started to wear out his welcome, because I thought like my expectation was that he was going to be a good fantasy option and that people like casual Wizards fans were going to love him because he was just going to score 30 points a night, and they were going to be like, oh, like we need to build around Jordan Poole, ignoring that he was shooting 84 times. But he's been so bad that like it's not even that. It's just like, who is this guy and why is he so bad?
It's bizarre. Like the shot selection's horrible. Like everything is not going his way. Now, he's sort of come around. I mean, he scored 26, 24, and 30 points in the last 3 games. His shot has been dropping. But he's, and in these games, he's averaged about 23 field goal attempts per game. So at 6,600 on FanDuel, at a similar price, what is he? 6,500 on DK. He's going to be in play tonight. So for those of you that are like, oh, Jordan Poole never again. No, tonight is the time to put that rule aside. We can all get burned together on this one, but he's certainly maybe picking things up, or it's just variance the other direction. I don't know how to see this, but like you, I figured he'd be like, remember the Westbrook year, right? Where Westbrook is now the franchise leader for the Wizards in triple doubles in half a season or however long he played for Washington. I figured you were going to get, a more polished offensive version of Swaggy P in his Wizards days. And
like I thought Jordan Poole was going to be like an 8K plus fantasy guy.
Yeah. It doesn't seem like it's happening. So hopefully they boost him, get him some, just feed him, get him buffed up a little bit for the trade market later this winter. But yeah, it doesn't even feel like he's going to be here the whole season.
Letting models sit courtside and he'll play better.
Yes, that's also true.
Yeah, but so. All the bashing Jordan Poole that he fully deserves. From a DFS standpoint, he's 6,500. He's still been a fantasy point per minute guy just based on the fact the Wizards have nobody outside of Kyle Kuzma. And he's usually playing enough minutes, to be a good option. So he's projected for 39% ownership right now, 38% chance of being optimal. Like he's the best play probably from this game on DraftKings.
Yeah, I would agree with that. DeLon Wright's out. He's actually been out for 7 games. He had a pretty good sideline or a halftime interview that I was watching last night in the game around. Must have been a halftime interview, but he was kind of interesting. I hadn't realized that he and Kuzma spent 1 year together in college, and he was saying that Kuzma didn't do a good job of passing back then. He says that's not an issue anymore, but I hadn't realized they both played together.
Is my
in college.
hang on for chat? Is my mic better now?
We shall see.
A bunch of people were saying they couldn't hear me, and I finally figured out how to override the auto setting.
Oh, it does. It is a little louder in my headphones, so maybe that helps. Alrighty. So anyway, DeLon Wright out. How do you feel about Tyus Jones? He is 5,600, looking good for the last couple games, but he'd sort of been in a funk previously as well.
Yeah, I was saying to Josh, the 2024 season EPM numbers were just released the other day. I knew Tyus Jones hadn't really been a fantasy option all year long. I didn't realize he had just been flat out bad, like from a basketball standpoint too. That's, unlike him. I blame Jordan Poole for that too, probably just pulling him down with him. But he's 5,600 on a 4-game slate in a game with a 240 whatever total, 25% ownership, 22% chance of being optimal. He's going to look like a good option. I'm finishing up running a sim now, so I can see where I would be, but I think he looks like a good play, probably the second best play on Washington behind Poole.
All right. And then Kuzma and Gafford kind of rounding out the starters here.
Yeah. So I'm looking to see what I would have if the slate started right now with our stuff. I would have 45% Poole, 18% Jones. Kuzma would be my second highest owned Washington guy at 23%. We just have him going slightly under owned, 19% ownership, 20% chance of being optimal. He's been the only actual good fantasy producer on Washington this year. 1.29 DraftKings points per minute. His playing time at times has been sporadic. I know, we talked semi-jokingly, but also like, are they actually doing this earlier in the year about whenever Washington was in competitive games, they were like cutting Kuzma's minutes. They haven't been doing that quite as much, but like he still only played 31 minutes yesterday. Tyus only played 30. Poole played 33 because obviously you can give him more minutes if you're trying to lose. But the playing time has been the biggest issue for Kuzma. You still have some games where he plays what you would like him to play, but there are so many like 30, 31-minute games mixed in there that it is scary going to him at 8,400. But the production has been there, and it is a 4-game slate. The pace of this game also, 31 minutes is going to be more like 35 in terms of possessions. So he looks good. Getting the 14% Avdia, who has been around the fantasy point per minute guy this year. Started out the year really well. He's come back down to earth a bit, but still around a fantasy point per minute, which is perfectly fine at 5,900, small forward, power forward. Fields getting the 17%. I'm getting the 14, so not too far off there. And then I'm kind of just mixing in other guys a little bit. Landry Shamet at 3,200, point guard, shooting guard, 24% projected ownership right now, 11% chance of being optimal. I'm nowhere near the field at the moment. I have 7%. I have 7% Gafford, who's projected for 9%. I have 3% Koulibaly, who's at 3%. So I'm getting to the Wizards. The only thing that really stands out to me as far as like being really far away from the field is the fact that I'm just not getting to this 24% Shamet. But I think that ownership comes down. Like we have him projected for 14.5 points. I don't know why a quarter of the field is ever going there.
It's a function of value at this point. Everybody, I want to remind you that we do have a couple of Black Friday deals here that are going through the weekend. They will end on Monday, but Adam mentioned the Sims, and we have the Sims package where we are giving 50% off any new customer. That deal actually is going to end tomorrow. For any of you that did sign up during the Millie promotion, we are going to give you a coupon code that you can use if you would like to extend your subscription using the Black Friday deal after the Millie promotion ends. We weren't anticipating doing a Black Friday deal for the Sims, and we wanted to leverage that Millie one, but we don't want to have anybody feel like they're being left out there. So we will extend that for you. You will get that via email, or you can always reach out to support if you did not get that. But as you can see here, this is the landing page here for the Sims page. We have all sorts of support for it. We've got steps on how to use it, multiple videos, evergreen tools, etc. When you sign up, you also get the Discord channel. There is a dedicated Sims channel there that covers all of this. But this is definitely a lot of fun to play around with. We have it, of course, for basketball and for NFL. And then you have the post-lock Sims, and you've got the late swap option for the NBA Sims. We're continually adding features to this, so enjoy, have some fun with it, but 50% off here for the Black Friday deal. Alrighty, let's get to our next game, Adam. we have Cleveland. We have Cleveland hosting the Los Angeles Lakers, and of course, favorite son LeBron James. So that's always fun. He is currently listed as questionable, but I kind of feel like he is not going to be missing this game here. We look at the other injuries that they have. Jared Vanderbilt still out with that heel injury. Vincent is out with his knee issue. Hachimura had a nasal fracture. He's going to be out for a week. I think he had to have a minor medical procedure to reset that. James, as I mentioned, questionable with the calf injury. Cam Reddish has missed a game or two with the groin issue, but he could return. This is an island game. The Lakers last played on Wednesday. They do not play again until Monday. And then on the Cleveland side, Ty Jerome is out. Dean Wade is out. Mitchell has missed the last 4 games with the sore hamstring. He is questionable, so he could return today or tomorrow. Cleveland plays tomorrow against Toronto. And then Isaac Okoro has been out for 9 games, but he is getting close to return from his knee injury. But LeBron, homecoming, right? That's his automatic 50 fantasy points, right, Adam?
Yeah. But I'm getting around the field on him right now. 31% ownership at 9,600, small forward, power forward. Somehow still one of the best players in the NBA currently, despite being 39 years old, which is absolutely insane to me. But still getting it done. Not that expensive. Good positional eligibility. Not the best matchup, but it's a 4-game slate. Still 1.46 DraftKings points per minute for the season. Looks really good. Him and D'Angelo Russell are the 2 guys getting ownership right now on this team. Russell pulling 21% with a 23% chance of being optimal at 6,300. I'm getting about 27% Russell. So around the field on LeBron, a little bit over on Russell. I'm not getting much else right now. Would certainly be happy to get to Anthony Davis at 9,700 if I can. I'm getting about 3% right now. Fields at 9%. It's just tough. Center only 9,700. LeBron projects a little bit better. LeBron has the better positional eligibility. So he's just going to show up more often. If you want to say, LeBron's 3 times as popular as Davis, I'm going to play Davis. Perfectly fine in some lineups, but it is just more difficult to get there. I'm not getting to Reeves right now. I have 6% Taurean Prince, which is never fun. He's been absolutely awful this year. But to me, it's pretty much LeBron and Russell that stand out. And then Davis obviously is just always going to be a good contrarian play when he's 10% owned.
All right, chat. I may have found the setting I was looking for. Let me know if I am now a little bit lower in volume. My apologies. But welcome, Hannah Banana. I see you're popping in here. Have fun. It's a little NBA action today here. Where are you rating out LeBron and Davis against the likes of Trae Young, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, Luka, etc.?
I actually have more LeBron than any of them right now. Now, I do have some strange exposures that I think are going to probably change as the day goes on, as far as value guys go. But I do have a little bit more LeBron than them. I think just because of the position. Like, if you just ask me who I prefer, I would obviously say Trae Young because he's facing Washington in that game. But he is a point guard. There's just going to be more point guard options. They're similarly owned. So I'm actually getting to a little bit more LeBron than him. I'm getting to a little bit more LeBron than Luka and Paul George as well.
All right, Obi-Wan, he's got the next segue here for us. He says, who's the priority on Cleveland? Adam, take it away here. Let's assume go with and without Mitchell, unless you have a strong lean if he's in or out tonight.
Yeah, so I mean, right now I have Mitchell projected in, and if that's the case, I don't think there really is a priority. The field's highest owned guy is Jared Allen at 12%. My highest owned guy is Jared Allen at 12%. Now, if Mitchell is out, Darius Garland at 7,800 starts to look really good. I'm surprised his price tag hasn't adjusted more with Mitchell being out. In previous games, I thought it would come up a little bit faster, but he's still going to look like a very strong play if Mitchell is out. Everybody looks marginally better. Strus looks a little bit better. LeVert looks a little bit better, but those guys are also already correctly priced. Garland's the one that I think really, like right now, he's getting 5% ownership. I have 2%. He goes from that to looking like one of the better point guard plays if Mitchell sits.
Yeah, and that's just going to continue to be a function of all the usage and all the assists headed his direction when Mitchell is out. So we'll put a pin in that one. We'll see what happens. Of course, there is NBA Live Before Lock tonight. That is going to be at 6 o'clock. We should have ample news by that point for at least these first 2 games. Continuing on here, Adam, anything else you want to mention from this game?
I'm just pulling up what Garland's done without Donovan Mitchell this season.
Okay.
I know he was around 1.3 or 1.4 fantasy points per minute last season. 4 games this year, only 1.1 DraftKings points per minute, but 32.8% usage rate, 24.5% assist percentage, 34 minutes per game. The numbers probably go up overall now since the start of last season. He's played 14 games without Mitchell, still about 1.3 DraftKings points per minute, 31.2% usage rate. The big difference so far this year is that 24% assist percentage in the games without Mitchell. Since the start of last year, he's at 36.9%. I don't really know what to attribute that to, since it is mostly the same team. And like Max Strus, I don't think is taking on a big playmaking role. But I do expect Garland's production without Mitchell to go up. And then the other thing that could open up is maybe Craig Porter plays more if Mitchell is out. But you do have a Okoro questionable also. You have LeVert not on the injury report. So I don't know what to make of Porter at this point. Like, if Okoro misses, if Mitchell misses, and if Porter starts again, then sure, take some shots at 5,100. But if they were to start LeVert or if Okoro's back, I would still be not too confident in Porter.
Do you think Porter's played his way into a little bit more of a role during this stretch, or is it just a function of getting minutes and not enough backcourt depth?
Probably both. I wouldn't be surprised if he stays in the rotation, just because Cleveland's always sort of had, or recently, has sort of had that like variable like last piece. Sometimes it's Okoro, and then Okoro plays like shit, and it's not Okoro anymore. It's been
no more Chetty Osman on this team.
What do you say?
No more Chetty Osman after years of that.
No Chetty. Well, like he was one last year where Chetty's in the rotation, Chetty's not in the rotation. Okoro's in the rotation, Okoro's not in the rotation. So like you've just sort of had that like last piece for the last few years. So it wouldn't be surprising if Porter kind of just played his way into that, at least for a little bit.
Alrighty, everybody, reminder, we do have the Stochastic Avatar promotion here. I'm going to drop the link there into the chat, but if you go follow that link and the instructions to download the Stochastic Avatar, upload that to your DFS site of choice. Finish top 3, first, second, or third. 3-way tie for first is okay, but not a 50-way tie for first, second, or third, and you can choose 1 month of any Stochastic package. All you need to do is send a screenshot on Twitter to @StochasticHOF showing your Stochastic Avatar, and we will hook you up. We will also get a shout out on the Hall of Fame segment that Lofty does. We also like to celebrate all wins, big or small. So even if you don't qualify for the free month of Stochastic, you can at least celebrate your win. It's good times here. We like to see everybody finishing up top. We're not all going to win $1 million these days, but we can at least have some fun with that. So check that out. That is the Stochastic Avatar promotion. Game number 3, Adam. Let's look at what we have here. It is the New Orleans Pelicans at the Utah Jazz. If I'm on the right page. Yes. So Pellies played last night. They won, 116-106 in Los Angeles against the Clippers. They're still going to be without CJ McCollum. He could return early next week. He was dealing with that collapsed lung. You have Zion, who may rest tonight. We don't know for sure. This is a back-to-back in 3 and 4. He played 34 minutes last night. Dyson Daniels played 36 minutes. Ingram 35. Joval 28. So we'll have to see what happens. We have seen Zion get breaks before. We've also seen him play on back-to-backs. Utah could see Walker Kessler come back. He has missed 7 games with an elbow injury, so we'll have to see what happens there. Lauri Markkanen dealing with a hamstring injury. He is questionable. This is an island game for Utah. They last played on Wednesday. They do not play again until Monday. What are you thinking with the Pels here? Zion in or out tonight?
Yeah, so we have him projected out right now. I tend to agree with that. The Pels, I mentioned a second ago when we were talking about LeBron that I have some really weird exposures right now, and it's just a function of it being 10 a.m. and things not exactly matching up. But this is one team that is kind of just ruining what I'm doing. So like right now I have 91% Najee Marshall. That's because we have him projected for 17% ownership, but with a 46% chance of being optimal. Those numbers are going to converge in some way, most likely the optimal percentage coming down because Najee Marshall just isn't that guy. But so right now, like he's my highest owned guy on the slate. That is not going to hold. Either the ownership's going to come way up if he's that good of a play, or his projection is going to come down. But he would certainly look better if Zion's out. Ingram looks better if Zion's out. He's projected for 26% ownership right now. I'm only getting to about 11, but again, like everything's just sort of thrown off here for me. I'm getting to a bunch of Alvarado who may or may not play. He just returned from injury. He played yesterday. If he plays, he's 3,700 and looks decent. 21% projected ownership right now. Wouldn't mind going there. If he's out, it does open up some more minutes for, a combination of Dyson Daniels, Jordan Hawkins, most likely. So definitely a team where we need news. If Zion's out, it makes Joval look slightly better. Not, you do have Nance back, but it at least removes the threat of neither of those guys closing. We have seen halves closed with Zion at the 5 this year. If Zion's out, it means most likely one of Joval or Nance is closing, which is ultimately good for Joval at 6,900. Makes him look better, in addition to there being more usage available as well. So if Zion's out, Joval looks pretty good at 6,900. I'm getting to 35% right now. He's projected for 14. If Zion's in, he still looks fine at 6,900, but not as good as he would if he's out. So, need the Zion news. That opens up usage everywhere and playing time. The last game that Zion missed was on November 18th against Minnesota. We got a starting lineup there of Daniels, Hawkins, Jones, Ingram, and Joval. So Hawkins replaced Zion. Najee Marshall played 24 minutes off the bench, which, again, he would be a secondary play to me at 4,700 unless he's starting. Then he looks better. But assuming they go back to that starting lineup, expecting 24, 25 minutes from Marshall makes sense, which makes him look okay, but not the way that he's projected right now.
All right, so you guys heard Adam mention the optimal percentage that's on our boom bust tool. Of course, the Sims take this into account in everything they do, but for those of you that like to see how things work behind the scenes, you can see here, based on the leverage here, what Adam was talking about is the optimal, meaning 45% of the time, Najee Marshall is going to find himself in that perfect lineup. He has a solid boom score, but as you can see, with just a 17% ownership share at the moment, that will probably come up. You can see that he has a very positive leverage score. I think it goes the other way. Oh, sorry, you're right. But vice versa.
Yeah, optimal, I think optimal and projection both come down.
Yes, that's where I was going to go with that. These things will start to neutralize. What you tend to see is when things are popping as very outstanding plays, they tend to neutralize these days. But it's worth keeping tabs on, and because as some players go down, other players tend to go up. Right, so it's a moving target. As we see news, of course, we've got 8 more hours until tip off tonight, so a lot of things can change. But that is the boom bust tool. All righty, Adam, let's get back to the fun here. How are you feeling about? Did you mention Joval? Because he has put up some really good games recently. Yeah. He feels a little more steady than he has been in the past.
Yeah, Joval looks good here. If Zion's out, he looks better. But yeah, I talked about him. Just if Zion's out, not only do you get the increased usage, it is a potential benefit for playing time, just because you're very likely to get 48 minutes split between Joval and Nance. Whereas when Zion's there, you run the risk of it being mostly Joval and Nance, and then Zion at the end of halves. So he looks good or fine if Zion's in. Certainly looks better if he's out.
I love this. Doug in chat says, your old pal EMac, your mic's low. You should turn it up. Oh, you should have been here 15 minutes ago when my mic was too loud and I needed to turn it down. So we'll find the sweet spot here. As long as you can hear Adam, that's the important thing here. Get the analysis from the one and only Ship My Money DFS. Do you think we get Kessler back? And Kessler was mostly having a lost season thus far. We remember last year he started slow aside from the blocks, and then he really came on over the last 6-8 weeks of the season. This year we haven't even really seen glimpses of that. I don't think it's a function of John Collins joining the team, but it seems a little odd that pre-elbow issue he had not really been the player he was at the end of last year.
Yeah, definitely a slow start for him this year. And you'd seen, the playing time kind of reduced as a result. So not entirely sure what to make of him if he does come back. I don't know if he just immediately moves back into the starting lineup or not. Kelly Olynyk got the start last game. They moved Agbaji back to the bench. My guess is that if he's back, Kessler comes off the bench behind Olynyk, but I don't know. Obviously, that could also be behind John Collins with Agbaji back in the starting lineup. But I assume they go same starting lineup as last game, and Kessler's the backup for now. But, who knows? If that's the case, Kessler at 5,500 isn't going to be appealing. This team as a whole kind of just looks pretty average on the slate. You have 11% ownership coming into Collins and Clarkson. You have 14% coming into Keontae George, 9% to Olynyk, 6% to Markkanen. So they're just sort of there. And that's not too surprising. They are essentially healthy. The prices are pretty much where they should be. They're in a game that has about a 232 total, which is high, but on the slate still like 16 points lower than the Washington game somehow. So I'm pretty much getting to these guys the same way the field is. 23% Keontae George right now at 5,700. So a little over the field there. We do have him projected to be a little bit under-owned, 18% chance of being in the optimal lineup compared to 14% ownership. So I don't mind that one at 5,700. I'm getting the 13% Collins, which is right around the field, 8% Clarkson, not too far off, 4% Olynyk, and then very small amounts of Markkanen and Fontecchio, which Fontecchio will just disappear. But any of the starters here, I think, look fine. Nobody stands out as like a clear top priority, though.
Alrighty, one last plug here because it is the Black Friday promotion. We have our sister site Odd Shopper here. You can get up to 50% off with the promo code Black Friday. I'm sharing that on the screen here. I will drop this into chat as well. We've reconsolidated a few things here, and one of the things that we have added that is soft launching this weekend and will be full on next week is we have our expert picks. But in one easy spot, you can come in and find all of the picks that the various folks are recommending here in one spot. So that will be quite helpful. Again, we're just slowly putting it out this week to make sure all the inputs work and the bugs, through the weekend. But that is a good way to do it. But you can check out all sorts of the other tools. I like to look at the positive EV. That's usually the main ones we look at. Of course, because I'm in Florida now, I just have to go tweak this to a state that does have sports wagering, and then we can do a variety of different things here. We can sort it by the different sports, the different types of bets, etc. You can expand on any player or any bet, and you can immediately see all the different books that are offering it, find the best deals, the best numbers, and that's why we like to participate in several sports books where possible, because if you're always shopping the lines, I mean, look here, for this wager, you can get minus 141 at Pinnacle, yikes, or you can find some of these other books here, minus 110. All of a sudden, you're looking at like a 3% change in the VIG, and that is what the ever-elusive edge. We talk about it in DFS, but this is what it is in sports wagering. It's finding the best numbers for the best prices. But that is Odd Shopper. Promo code Black Friday gets you 50% off your subscription. That ends on Monday. The other thing you want to remember is we do have the Odd Shopper YouTube channel. So that is growing by leaps and bounds. 104,000 subscribers already on the Odd Shopper YouTube channel. You get the overnights, Lindy's Leans, Likes, and Locks. Eitan covers that on the weekends. And then you get Ben and Matt talking multiple college football shows and college basketball shows coming up here every week, etc. So check that out. That is Odds Shopper. Final game of the night, Adam. We have the Dallas Mavericks at the Clippers. Maximilian Kleber out with a toe injury, Lively out with the foot issue. This is a true island game here for the Mavs. They played on Wednesday. They do not play again until Tuesday. On the other side for the Clippers, of course, you've got Plumlee is out into mid-January with the knee issue. This is a back-to-back and 3-4. They did lose 116-106 to New Orleans last night. Paul George played 39 minutes. Harden played 37. Kawhi Leonard played 34. And then off the bench, Daniel Tice, 21. Tucker, 22. Westbrook, only 14. Zubac only played like 17 minutes. That was a bit of a surprise here. I don't know what the heck is going on with the Clippers. They did win the first three games where they put Westbrook on the bench unit. Last night was their first loss. Their first loss since making that change. But back-to-back here, we have seen Kawhi play on back-to-backs. He felt slighted, didn't think that whole NBA rule about load management had any relation to him whatsoever, which was a fun offseason topic here. But what do you got for us today? Let's start off with Luka. You mentioned Dallas changed the way they play. They're playing about 5 or 6 possessions faster. Their defense is a little worse. Everything is going to Luka, and what doesn't go to Luka goes to Kyrie, and there is no scraps left for anybody else. Talk to us about the Mavs.
Yeah, pretty much 6th in pace this year, which again, just not. I don't remember where they were last year, but this was not a team. At least
they were I can't remember what the number was, but I think they were about 4.5 possessions faster this year.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's also nice.
Sorry, when we talk about the pace numbers, that's possessions per 48 minutes. And when we talk about defensive efficiency, that is points allowed per 100 possessions. So for reference.
Yeah, so when you put those two numbers together, if you're getting a fast-paced team and a team that gives up a lot of points per 100 possessions, you're essentially just saying that the team plays more possessions. There are more possessions in the games that team plays, and they're also giving up a bunch of points per 100 possessions. So it's really, really favorable, for their opponents. So it looks, it's a good spot for the Clippers too. But for Dallas, I mean, Luka's great if you can get to him. A lot of it is going to depend on exactly how value shakes out today. So like right now, we have him projected 10% ownership, 12% chance of being optimal. I'm getting to 28% Luka, which I would absolutely love if he's 9 or 10% owned. But the thing you have to keep in mind is that I'm getting a ton of Najee Marshall. I'm getting a ton of Alvarado. I'm getting a ton of Rashawn Holmes. All of those plays could look much worse by the time we get to lock. I'm confident Najee Marshall is going to look worse than it does right now. Alvarado is sort of just there. And then Rashawn Holmes is, we'll talk about in a second, but a huge question mark in this game. So right now I'm getting a ton of Luka, but I'm also on some very thin value plays that might disappear. And those are helping drive up my Luka. So right now I have a little bit more Luka than Trae Young. And the reason would be that we have these value plays that are projected to be under-owned right now. And so I can be like, oh, instead of playing a really popular Trae Young, I can play Luka fairly easily. There's a good chance as we get to lock, these value plays that I'm getting to with early projections don't look as good. So Luka goes away or comes down, Trae Young comes up. So just keep that in mind. But right now, getting to Luka, certainly going to be happy to get there if I can. For the season, Luka's at 1.61 DraftKings points per minute. So, nothing to be upset about there. Getting to 27% Grant Williams, which feels disgusting. 0.7 DraftKings points per minute. Could see some extra playing time without Lively. You could certainly see some smaller lineups from Dallas, with no Maxey either. He's getting 31% ownership, so I'm right around the field there. I'm getting 14% Kyrie, which is in line with the field. So far this year, 1.25 DraftKings points per minute for him. But getting about 15% Hardaway, 8% Josh Green. But really burying the lead here because I'm getting to 80% Rashawn Holmes, which is another one where he's 4,100. He's center only. If he starts this game, he looks like probably the best value on the slate, at least with the information we have right now. He's a fantasy point per minute guy. He did play 23 minutes last game, and that's big. Lively, left the game in the third quarter. It's big because a huge question with Rashawn Holmes is like, how many minutes can he physically play? We saw him play 23 last game. If he starts, I think expecting 24 makes sense and certainly could be higher. The last game that Lively missed was back on November 8th. Dwight Powell started that game, played 24 minutes. Holmes played 7 off the bench. Maxey was in that game as well. But Dwight Powell wasn't in the rotation last game. Holmes was ahead of him, and then Holmes played more minutes after Lively was out. So if you get Holmes starting at 4,100, he looks very good. He'll be very popular. I would play a lot of him. But like right now, we have him projected to start. We have him projected for 29% ownership with a 43% chance of being optimal. If he starts, he's going to be more than 29% owned, especially if we get that news early enough in the day that people can plan for it. The other way that could go is they just move Dwight Powell into the starting lineup. Holmes remains the backup, in which case Holmes as a tournament flyer is still okay. Powell at 3,600 would look pretty decent. Like whoever starts at center, I think projecting around 24 minutes makes sense. And then whichever of them is coming off the bench, I think going something like 16, 18 minutes probably makes sense. And then you probably get the rest being lineups that have like Derek Jones Jr. or Grant Williams at the 5. So that's kind of how I'm expecting this to break down. Whoever's starting at center is going to look like a pretty good value. If it's Holmes, it does look a little bit better just because he's the better point per minute guy. But Powell's also 0.8 DraftKings points per minute for the year. So it's not like he's nothing. But that's just really, really important information that we're going to need and that is going to impact the slate is who is starting at center. But whoever it is going to look like a pretty good value. Right now we have it projected as Holmes, and so I'm getting a ton of Holmes. Josh Green at 4K, Derek Jones Jr. at 4K. These are guys that could certainly benefit a bit from Lively being out, just in terms of, maybe picking up a few more minutes if they do go small. Same goes for Grant Williams. I think they're interesting as far as low owned plays. Like if 31% of the field is going to play Grant Williams and 4% is going to play Josh Green or 7% is going to play Derek Jones Jr., you could certainly make a case in some lineups for turning Grant Williams into them. But for me right now, I'm getting 8% Josh Green. I'm not really getting to Derek Jones. I am getting to Grant Williams. But this starting lineup for Dallas is going to be pretty interesting.
If you did not, because this is the later game, if you did not have knowledge of their starting lineup when things lock, would you still hold that center spot open as long as you can?
So I think if we don't have news, I think expecting Holmes to start would be, one, my best guess, and two, the most pragmatic way to go about it, because Holmes is 4,100 on DraftKings, Powell is 3,600. If you project Powell to start and he doesn't, you're kind of just going to be stuck with $3,600 Powell, and it's going to be tough to get up to Holmes. If you project Holmes to start, worst case, you just end up turning that into Dwight Powell at 3,600.
On FanDuel, I want to point out that is Powell $100 more than Rashawn Holmes, and of course they're center only. The only real opportunity costs at center tonight would be Jonas Valanciunas. I think I'd rather have one of the Dallas guys, and then Clint Capella, Gafford, and Okongwu all battling each other. So there's Embiid's on the earlier slate today. Obviously, Jokic played yesterday, so we don't have quite those dominating center options tonight. So it's kind of interesting. Don't get caught watching the paint dry, and make sure you leave yourself that flexibility with the salary. Worst case scenario, if I had to ride with one of them, kind of like what Adam was saying, I would just pick Holmes and move on. If you go look at his basketball reference, Adam, literally every season except for last year when he was just getting yanked around, he averaged about a fantasy point per minute. Yeah. Seasons where he was off the bench the entire year, split seasons where he was the starter across 5 different teams, fantasy point per minute. So
yeah, he's a good fantasy booster. And the reason he's my guess to start, this is always tricky because sometimes coaches, we saw it with the Clippers earlier. I think it was the Clippers. No, not sorry, with Orlando. Still seeing it with Orlando, where Mo Wagner was clearly the backup and Goga's clearly third string, but then Wendell Carter gets hurt and Goga becomes the starter so that Wagner can stay in his role. You could certainly see Powell just become the starter here so Holmes stays in his role, but Holmes was the clear backup last game. Dwight Powell was not in the rotation in the first half. Rashawn Holmes played every minute that Derek Lively was not on the floor. Then in the second half, Lively gets hurt in the third quarter. Holmes immediately subs in and essentially plays out the rest of Lively's rotation. Powell comes in, plays those backup minutes, essentially that Holmes had played in the first half, and then Holmes comes in and closes the game for the final almost 10 minutes. So I expect it to be Holmes, but there is just that chance that they do the thing where you just start the third string guy so you can keep the other guy with the second unit. I don't know what they'll do, but also Justin Wilson with a good point in chat too. If you do expect it to be Holmes and it ends up not being Holmes, you're also not just limited to Powell. You do have Daniel Tice that you can swap to also, in addition to, Terrence Mann if you really hate money.
Oh, Terrence Mann. Yeah, no, thank you. No 8% usage rates for me. Speaking of Terrence Mann,
half yesterday.
Pardon?
Also came off the bench in the second half yesterday, so not even sure if he's starting today.
Oh, who was the starter coming out? Well, let's talk about the 4 starters we care about on the Clippers. Do you think Kawhi's going to go tonight?
I have no idea. We haven't projected in for now. I don't really know what else you can do. We have George, Kawhi, Harden, Westbrook all projected in. I think that's the only way you really can handle it for now.
Yeah, he had 34 minutes last night, so there's a decent chance he plays tonight.
We should find out.
I'm hoping we get, the 130, the 230 injury report, something cryptic. If he pops up as questionable, then you probably lean towards him sitting. We won't know until we get the actual lineup, but I would think if they slap him with an injury designation, it would feel like that could be an issue. What do you think of that bench there? Tice, Tucker, Westbrook. Yeah, don't want Westbrook. Powell. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I'm surprised I'm not getting to more of them, but I think this probably just has to do with what I was saying earlier, where I'm getting a stupid amount of Najee Marshall. It's going to go away. I do obviously have a ton of Holmes, like I said, which if he's starting, I'm completely cool with. But like that kind of stuff makes a $3,900 Daniel Tice not necessary. But by the time we get to lock and I don't have 90% Najee Marshall, $3,900 Daniel Tice is going to be more useful. So, he has been playing true backup center minutes, like significant backup center minutes. He's still only 3,900. So perfectly fine value play, especially, with the information that we have right now. We have him only getting 7% ownership too, which is kind of nice. Norm Powell had a solid game yesterday, 5,100. I'm not getting to him too much. I have 13%. So actually the field's at 6%. I have 13. I'm fine with that. Shooting guard, small forward. Not confident in it, but it's a 4-game slate. He does have the ability to pay off that salary at low ownership. Paul George is the guy I'm getting to the most, though. 25% owned, fields at 25%. Shooting guard, small forward. So again, really good positional eligibility. 8,700, very fair price tag. Getting the 16% Kawhi, so even with the field there. I'm only getting the 6% Harden. So of the 3 guys on the Clippers that are getting ownership, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, James Harden on DraftKings, Harden's the one that I'm under the field on. I'm around the field on George and Kawhi. Not like any great reason, I don't think, for being under on Harden, but we do only have him projected with a 12% chance of being optimal compared to 17% ownership. Whereas for the other guys, they're a lot closer. Kawhi, 18% chance of being optimal, 17% owned, 21% chance of George being optimal at 25% owned. So I think it's probably just a function of Harden going a little bit more over owned than the other two.
Alrighty, we are going to get on out of here. We do have College Football Live Before Lock coming up on the Stochastic YouTube channel. That will be Ben Raza and Matt Gajeski. That will start at 11 a.m., so about 5 minutes from now. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button so you know when we're going live, and then I will drop this link into chat. But again, we were sponsored by Vivid Picks. Key things you want to remember about them. Your very first card on their site, it is a pick'em site, is a $25 backed play. So if you lose, you get $25 in site credit. You want to come in on the link I'm going to drop in chat because you will get up to a $300 deposit match on your first deposit. If you do not come in on this link, your deposit match is $100. 300 is better than 100. At a minimum, put in $25 because that is your first card will be risk-free again. So check that out. That is Vivid Picks. You guys can follow Adam over there on Twitter at ShipMyMoneyDFS. I am at EMac and of course it is Stochastic _COM. With that, gamers, good luck.